Next, on Currents News, New York City now has a case of coronavirus, what we know about the person infected, plus the latest on the outbreak around the globe. And Pope Francis won't be attending an annual Lenten retreat so he can stay home to nurse a lingering cold.
Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio welcomes hundreds of newcomers to the church. The folks you see behind me on stage will receive their sacraments at the Easter Vigil. I'll share some of their stories coming up.
And a special day in the Brooklyn Diocese. Pope Francis has elevated 9 priests to Monsignor. The news starts right now.
There will be more cases.
Still, Governor Andrew Cuomo is saying New Yorkers should relax. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Cuomo teaming up with Mayor Bill de Blasio this morning after a case of coronavirus is discovered in Manhattan. This is the first in the state, and the two leaders are taking action to keep the disease under control. Currents News' Emily Drewby reports from the governor's office in Manhattan.
Coronavirus has made its way to New York City. On Monday, Governor Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Bill de Blasio teamed up to give details on the case.
That woman is a healthcare worker. She's 39 years old.
She was working in Iran and flew back to New York on Tuesday. Cuomo says she was careful.
She did not take any public transportation. As she was a healthcare worker, she was very aware of this situation and the potential for this situation. We don't believe that she was contagious when she was on the plane.
Still, they're contacting the other passengers just in case. They did not say which airport or airline, and the woman took a private car to her home. According to Governor Cuomo, the woman was tested at Mount Sinai. She's now quarantined inside her home, along with her husband, who health officials say is the only person she had prolonged contact with. The governor says while they're taking precautions, more cases are likely.
You're not going to eliminate the spread, but you can limit the spread. And testing is very important. And that's why the CDC, the federal government's now allowing us to test, is a very big deal.
New York City should be able to test for coronavirus starting Friday. Officials calling that a big deal when it comes to prevention. Results will take hours instead of days. Along with New York, first cases have been reported in Rhode Island and Florida, meaning the virus is now in at least 11 states. Some schools in Washington and Oregon have closed for cleaning. Top U.S. officials say they're working on a vaccine.
With respect to the vaccine, yes, the military labs are in fact working, very consistently.
President Trump asking vaccine production to be accelerated. He's sitting down with pharmaceutical CEOs to discuss. Christine?
Emily, there's a lot of fear surrounding the coronavirus here in New York City. Did the governor address that at all?
Christine, the governor says he understands the anxiety, but he told everyone to relax. He said the city is doing everything possible to stop the spreading of the disease. They're even putting new cleaning protocol into place on public transportation and in schools. But again, the message today was very clear. If you're feeling sick at all, you should go to a healthcare provider as soon as possible. If for some reason you can't get to one, call 311.
All right, good advice. Thanks, Emily. And Wall Street rebounded today from coronavirus troubles. The three major indexes each closed up at least 4.5%. At the same time, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and Washington state officials are confirming at least 6 deaths in the United States from the virus. There are now 92 confirmed infections in the country, with the largest numbers in California and Washington state. At the same time, 2 U.S. airlines are suspending flights to Milan. Delta and American won't go there, but they're still flying to Rome. At least 34 people have died in Italy. Pope Francis is still not feeling well, even though Sunday was his first public appearance in days. The Holy Father's health is forcing him to stay home and skip a Lenten retreat outside the Vatican. Currents News' Tim Harfman has the latest about the Pope.
Pope Francis visibly sick Sunday as he delivered the Angelus in St. Peter's Square. The 83-year-old pontiff said a cold forced him to cancel plans to attend a Lenten retreat.
Purtroppo il raffreddore mi costringe a non partecipare quest'anno.
The Holy Father usually attends the annual week-long retreat in southern Italy with top officials from the Roman Curia.
Seguirò da qui le meditazioni. Mi unisco spiritualmente alla Curia e a tutte le persone che stanno vivendo momenti di preghiera facendo gli esercizi spirituali a casa.
Francis stopped several times during Sunday's audience. It was his first public appearance in days. The Pope has been under the weather since last week. On Ash Wednesday, Francis was seen coughing and wiping his nose. Riding around St. Peter's Square last week, the Pope Mobile didn't stop as pilgrims shouted to the Holy Father. As of now, Francis continues to celebrate early morning Mass in Santa Marta and keep individual meetings. Tim Harfman, Currents News.
A major worldwide conference known as the Economy of Francis is being put off because of the virus outbreak in Italy. The event was set for the city of Assisi and would have attracted thousands of young people from more than 100 countries along with the Pope. Scheduled for the end of this month, organizers are hoping to hold it in November. Today's a big day at the Vatican that's likely to have a big impact on history. Secret archives are now open for the first time, shining a light on Pope Pius XII and his protection of the Jewish people during World War II. Melissa BUTZ is in a rainy St. Peter's Square with the latest.
Secrets surrounding the controversial papacy of Pope Pius XII are being revealed to the world today from the Vatican's secret archives. Church historians are expecting to see the truth about how this pope actually helped the Jews during the Nazi Holocaust. The 52 miles contained in the Vatican's apostolic archives have opened for scholars and researchers to study the documents on Pius XII from March 1939 to October 1958. The goal is to better understand the Holy Father's role during World War II. Critics claim he didn't do enough, but the record shows Pius not only confronted the Nazis, but he hid Jews in Rome.
The person himself of Pius XII will come out in a different way, of course, because there are answers to questions that are open today.
The archives were scheduled to open in 2028, 70 years after his papacy, as is Vatican policy. But Pope Francis moved it up 8 years due to prejudice surrounding his persona.
Con animo sereno e fiducioso, sicuro che la seria e oggettiva ricerca storica saprà valutare nella sua giusta luce, con appropriata critica, momenti di esaltazione di quei pontefici e senza dubbio anche momenti di gravi difficoltà.
For 14 years, 20 scholars have been classifying the documents, preparing for the opening. More than 3,000 boxes contain millions of documents on Pius XII. The researchers are eager to dive into the documents, including correspondences with ambassadors and letters informing him of Nazi concentration camps. Pope Francis has said the Church is not afraid of history and hopes this glance into the past will display the Holy See's humanitarian, religious, and political efforts during World War II. In 2009, Pope Benedict XVI advanced his cause for sainthood, naming him venerable. Since then, his cause has not advanced any further, since he lacks the 2 miracles necessary for him to be beatified and then canonized. Since these archives are being opened today, we'll see if the truth and the necessary miracles are found for him to advance to sainthood. At the Vatican, Melissa BUTZ, Currents News.
A major story in Washington as the Supreme Court gets ready to hear the first big abortion case of the Trump era. On Wednesday, the justices will take up a challenge to a Louisiana law that requires doctors to have hospital admitting privileges. The case is the first of its kind since the president appointed Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch to the High Court. An online viral video about abortion is sparking strong reaction tonight. The shaky images show a woman named Ashley laughing as she apparently heads to a California Planned Parenthood clinic for her second abortion attempt. The video shows the woman exposing her swollen abdomen and smiling as she undergoes the procedure. Actress Mindy Robinson tweeted the video saying, "When an entire generation is indoctrinated into thinking an unborn child holds little value, this is what happens." Tomorrow's Super Tuesday will see a reshuffled lineup of candidates as voters in 14 states go to the polls. Since Joe Biden's blowout victory in South Carolina, 3 hopefuls are ending their run for the White House. Senator Amy Klobuchar is leaving the race and going to endorse Biden. Pete Buttigieg is also backing the former vice president after he and Tom Steyer dropped out. Senator Bernie Sanders is continuing to poll well in many of the Super Tuesday states, and Mike Bloomberg will be on the ballot in all 14 contests. In Israel, voters are trying for a third time to break a deadlock and elect a government. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is up against former Army Chief Benny Gantz. Exit polls show Netanyahu with the lead. After 2 earlier elections, neither man could cobble together a coalition government to run the country. Turkey's president is hoping to broker a ceasefire in Syria when he meets later this week in Moscow with his Russian counterpart. This after the Turkish Defense Ministry distributed video on Sunday claiming to show Turkish forces destroying Syrian regime targets. According to reports, 2 Syrian warplanes were shot down over the rebel-held Idlib province. Violent clashes have escalated after 33 Turkish troops were killed by Syrian government forces last week. Meanwhile, thousands of refugees are stranded at Turkey's border with Greece. Turkey's President Erdogan isn't stopping them from crossing into Europe, but Greece is using tear gas to keep them from entering. Greece's prime minister and EU officials have just announced they will go to the border on Tuesday. Thousands fleeing had hope, believing Turkey would no longer stop refugees crossing to Europe, were met with tear gas at the border with Greece. Greece is not letting anyone through. The scene is quite chaotic. Europe doesn't want them, striking a financial aid deal with Turkey back in 2016 to stem the refugee flood. Many are well aware that they are being used as leverage by Turkey, already incensed at the EU for not fully paying up and forcing Turkey to shoulder the burden of the 3.5 million refugees, mostly Syrians. Now Turkey is even more angered by the West's refusal to support it in Idlib with anything more than rhetoric. The tear gas wafts over and mixes with the smoke from multiple fires as those here try to stay warm. Samira's husband was killed in Iraq by ISIS. She came to Turkey with her children, elderly mother, and disabled brother. Where are we supposed to go then, she wonders. This Syrian mother doesn't want to talk. When asked how she is doing, she just strokes her child's face. At night, some try to cross the river to Greece, but fail. Many of the refugees are separated from their loved ones. This family from Afghanistan says it happened to them. They are scared, vulnerable, alone, burning discarded clothing, not knowing where to go or how to find those they love. The Greek government says it has stopped nearly 10,000 crossing attempts and arrested 150 people over the weekend. A new report tonight on undocumented immigrants in the United States is showing a big drop in the numbers. New York Center for Migration Studies reports migration from Mexico is down and more Mexican nationals are returning home. Right now, CMS estimates there are over 10.5 million undocumented people in the country. That's down by more than 1 million since 2010. There's a lot more still ahead, including a special honor from the Vatican for 9 priests in the diocese. Plus, Bishop DIMARZIO is welcoming new Catholics to the church. We'll meet some of them and share their stories. And then cultural diversity within our faith. We'll look at what's being done to increase Hispanic ministry in the church. The new Archbishop of Philadelphia is minutes away. And a father and daughter bond. This extraordinary connection was something the dad was praying for. Pope Francis is granting big honors to 9 priests in the Brooklyn Diocese. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio announcing today that the Holy Father is conferring the title Chaplain of His Holiness upon the clergy. It's an honor that carries the title of Reverend Monsignor. The priests are Monsignor Richard Allmeyer, Monsignor Joseph Cunningham, Monsignor Edward Doran, also Monsignor Casper Fernari, Monsignor John Gildia, Monsignor John Harrington, plus Monsignor William Hoppy, Monsignor Raymond Rodin, and Monsignor John Vesey. The date for when the honors are bestowed will be announced later. The Brooklyn Diocese is welcoming hundreds of new members of the Catholic faith. They're beginning their final phase of preparation to enter the church and receive the sacraments. Tim Harfman reports from Windsor Terrace.
Walking across the stage, these people are taking their final steps to becoming Catholic. Abiola Awawumi is one. He attended Mass, but wanted more for his life.
I call myself a Christian, but at the same time, I'm not really being, Christ-like in a way.
He'll become a full-fledged member of the church at this year's Easter Vigil, when he receives the sacraments. Many of the people attending Sunday's rite of election are the catechumens, meaning they'll be baptized, confirmed, and receive First Communion at the Vigil. In the Brooklyn Diocese, there are 484 adults and 84 children who are catechumens. There are also the candidates, baptized Christians seeking a full Catholic sacramental life. 413 will be confirmed and receive the Eucharist at the Easter Vigil. 105 are Christian converts to Catholicism. Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio is encouraged by the large group.
It's a very good boost because we see people that are enthusiastic about the work of the church. They want to be part of the church. It is really an affirmation.
Grace Wang, who came from China 2 years ago, is enthusiastic about receiving her sacraments.
I have no chance to be a real Catholic in China, so I come here.
She endured her faith while facing persecution from the Chinese communists.
Sometimes the government told me, no, they don't allow me to do that. I can't go to church. I just can't pray in my home.
The Easter Vigil will be on Saturday, April 11th. In Windsor Terrace, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Taking Philadelphia by storm is their new Archbishop, Nelson Perez. The former auxiliary bishop of Rockville Center and head of the Cleveland Diocese was installed as the Philly Archbishop a little less than 2 weeks ago. He joins us now from Philadelphia to talk about his new role. Welcome.
Thank you, Christina. Great to be here.
Archbishop Perez, I want to start with something you said at your installation Mass. Let's take a moment to listen.
I get asked a lot when I went to Cleveland and now when I went here, so what's your plan, right? And I respond in turn, I says, are you kidding me? What's your plan? Well, the plan is, as I said in Cleveland, that I have no plan. I hope to listen and visit over time, learn what the Church of Philadelphia looks like today.
So now that it's been a few weeks, tell us, what is the church in Philadelphia like?
Well, it's vibrant, and it's hopeful, and it's faithful. And in the short period of time that I've been here, I've been able to celebrate Mass at the cathedral, did the rite of elections. I was at a parish yesterday morning for a pastoral visit. So I find people excited and very warm to welcome me back to the church from which I came from.
All right, you are Philadelphia's first Hispanic Archbishop, and according to CatholicPhilly.com, there are an estimated 82,000 Catholics in the Archdiocese who are of Latino or Hispanic origin. How do you hope to minister to those Catholics?
Being present to them along with their priest and religious and Bishop Delaman, who works with them directly. I know that world rather well because I worked in Hispanic ministry here for all of my priesthood. So hopefully by being present to them as well as being present to everybody else, because as the Archbishop of Philadelphia, I'm here for everybody.
Right. And among the U.S. bishops, you are also the chairman of the Committee on Cultural Diversity in the Church. You were very involved with their fifth encuentro, a process that looked to increase Hispanic ministry in the Church. Can you tell us the latest on that process?
Well, that process right now continues to evolve. So in a sense, we talk about the 3 years prior to the national event in Texas, that we were kind of like going up the mountain. Now we're coming down the mountain in a sense, right? So the Bishops' Conference are now preparing to formulate a pastoral response and statement to the call of the people and the collective voice of the Hispanic people across the country. We are also working on a national young adult leadership development process and program. That is also happening. So we're now continually unpacking the vast amount of information that came to us from over 300,000 350,000 people, over 3,000 family parishes across the country, 165 dioceses. So it's an enormous amount of work. The proceedings were put together. They were bound. They were sent to every bishop in the country, as well as I presented them formally to the Holy Father back in September.
Okay, what do you feel is the status of the Hispanic presence in the church? At one point, they were the fastest growing population of Catholics in the U.S. Is that still true?
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Right now, as we speak, about 60% of Catholics 18 and under come from a Hispanic Latin background. 25 and under, it's 51%. So we're there already.
Wow. All right, Archbishop Nelson Perez, the head of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Christine.
The Department of Justice is stepping in on a religious freedom case. This after a Christian wedding photographer sued the city of Louisville, Kentucky over an ordinance that forces her to work same-sex ceremonies. The DOJ filed a statement of interest siding with the photographer, saying weddings are sacred rites in the religious realm and thereby qualifies for free speech claims. Meantime, the Supreme Court will hear another challenge made to the Affordable Care Act. Republican state officials claim the law known as Obamacare is unconstitutional now that its requirement that most Americans must obtain health insurance was eliminated by Congress. The High Court will hear arguments in the fall and make a decision in either spring or summer of 2021. The man who built General Electric into a financial powerhouse has died. Jack Welch served as chairman and CEO of GE from 1981 to 2001. In 2006, the retired Catholic businessman made a donation to Sacred Heart University in Connecticut. The university named its College of Business after him. Jack Welch was 84 years old. Still to come on Currents News, Rembrandt returns to Rome. Well, his painting, Self-Portrait as the Apostle Paul does. It's a story hundreds of years in the making. And what are the odds of father and daughter sharing a leap day birthday? Why the new dad says it's a blessing. We'll be right back. Like father, like daughter, a new dad welcomes a baby girl on Leap Day, which also happens to be his birthday. Ivan Peñalosa of Carmichael, California, calls the birth of little Camilla an unexpected blessing. In a statement released by Mercy San Juan Medical Center, he said, quote, "I prayed to God for my little baby girl, and now we are going to share this amazing bond for the rest of our lives, and I am just so happy." Finally tonight, a masterpiece by Rembrandt is making its way back to Rome. This painting, called Self-Portrait as the Apostle Paul, will return to the Corsini Gallery after 200 years. It belonged to the Corsini family during the 18th century before they sold it to Rome to pay high taxes. How the painting came to be, however, still remains a mystery.
We don't know the painting's original function. We don't know for whom it was made, if for the artist himself or for some client. St. Paul is an important figure for Protestants, and Rembrandt lived in Amsterdam, a center of Protestantism. So identifying with the saint probably had something to do with a certain lifestyle.
The gallery is holding an exhibition of etchings by Rembrandt. That showing will be open to the public until June 15th. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.